Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer Next Door here, and I'm back with another review. And this time I saw Open Windows. This is a 2014 crime thriller film directed by Nacho Vigalondo, and it stars Elijah Wood, Sasha Grey, Neil Maskell, and Adam Quintero. In this film, Nick is excited to discover he's won a dinner date with his favorite actress, Jill Goddard. But when Jill refuses to honor the contest, he receives an offer he can't refuse: the ability to view Jill secretly via her computer. Nick begins watching the unknowing star on her webcam, not realizing that this decision will put himself and Jill at risk as they enter a terrifying world of cat and mouse. I guess that's an apt description. So, what did I think of Open Windows? Well, a few things popped out to me when I first heard about this film. I heard it was in the Screen Life format, which is the same format as Unfriended, Unfriended 2 Dark Web. There's a film before this called The Den. It might have been the first of this type. This is the first, I guess, of this caliber with like actors that are well known, like Elijah Wood and Sasha Grey to an extent, and I'll get to her. But also Searching, Missing, there's Profile, there's plenty of others where the entire film takes place through basically a screen capture of a laptop screen or computer screen and going into the different windows and stuff, which I think is a very interesting gimmick. Of the films that I listed, I've seen Unfriended, which I'll have to watch it again. I don't remember hating it. It had a lot of stupid parts, but for the most part, I remember thinking it was fine. Um, I loved Profile. It was by far my favorite of that year. And I still haven't seen Searching or Missing, um, or any of the others. But I, it's also directed by Nacho Vigalondo, who directed a film called Time Crimes that a lot of people seem to like. He, uh, directed. He also directed an episode of In the Dark or Into the Dark on Hulu called Puka. He also directed Colossal with Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis. And my thoughts on the film, I liked it. It does have some issues, and I will have to talk about certain things that I wasn't like super big on. But overall, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it took too long to get where it was going. It's a lean 100 minutes. Um, Pretty good acting overall, and sorry, and yeah, overall just an enjoyable time. Even if there's some things that didn't fully work for me. But let me get to the cast first. Elijah Wood plays Nick Chambers. He's a guy, super fan of this girl, this actress. He has a fan page uh that he runs for her. Sorry, somebody's messaging me. Um, he has a fan page for her because he takes a bunch of pictures of her. Apparently, he's like a super fan. And Elijah Wood is an actor that, to be honest, he's one of the few like huge Hollywood actors that I can think of that has really gone into more small stuff or like independent stuff. He's mostly been doing these indie roles. There's a film called I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, I think is what it was called. That was really good. Um he was in a film called Come to Daddy that apparently a lot of people like. He was in the Maniac remake, which I think I saw and I think I liked it. But he is a very good actor, and I think he's good in this. It's not one of his best performances, but I do think he works as this kind of obsessed fan. And to be honest, I think he became a lot more likable by the end. Um, Sasha Grey plays Joe Goddard, the actress. Um, Sasha Grey, if anybody here didn't know she did uh dramatic acting, she's mostly known as a porn star. She doesn't do porn anymore. She switched over to doing dramatic roles, which is an interesting thing. I've seen her in one film before, which was Would You Rather with Brittany Snow was the main character. The villain was Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator. You also had Robin what's his fucking name? Uh Robin Lord Taylor. You also had John Hurd. It was kind of a death game movie. Um, it's one of those movies that I think I love the film up until the ending, and you can just it's one of those movies where if you choose to, if you just cut the ending out, it's a much better movie because the rest of the stuff leading up to it is insanely tense and everything. And I like that director David Guy Levy. He did another film called Mandela Effect, which is a damn good movie. Uh, might even say fantastic movie. But anyways, she was in that, and I didn't mind her in that, and I think she does a pretty good job here. She's now, to be honest, there is like one scene where it's like, oh, the bad guy like basically gets our main character and forces him to make her take her clothes off, and I was like, I'm kind of expecting her to show her tits at one point because she is a former porn actress. But the people that will argue that oh, it's exploitative. She's a woman and she's being forced to take off her clothes. Yet, in the context of the scene, if you have the context and you actually watch the movie, you'll realize that the main character doesn't want to do this. Even though he's a super fan of hers, he hates every second of this and he's only doing it because if he doesn't, then an innocent person that he doesn't know is basically going to die. So, shut up. I'm pretty sure Sasha Grey got paid for this role. I'm pretty sure if she had an issue with showing her tits in a movie and didn't have it in porn, that wouldn't make much sense. So shut up. She does a good job here. I think she works. She's not in the film a ton. I was expecting her to be in it more, but still, she works for the role. Um, Neil Maskell plays Cord, basically this faceless entity for most of the film, who is basically our main villain. And I think his voice works for what they're trying to do with him. They're trying to make him kind of mysterious, kind of a lurking presence that's not like, oh, we've got a guy who looks really evil. It's mostly just you're hearing his voice and you're like, oh yeah, he sounds like he's up to something bad. And I think he works. Um, and Adam Quintero plays Pierre, who's basically a hacker that ends up helping our main character at one point. He's fine. And here's the thing with this movie. Again, it's one of the first well known Screen Life movies, and I already explained what that is. So they end up having to go through a lot of hoops in order to get different camera angles, different, trying to actually edit it so that it feels in some way like a real movie. Because if you just have it just on the screen the entire time with no like editing or anything, it can get very boring. And I think that's something that Unfriended did for a bit. I'm pretty sure Unfriended, from what I remember, it never zoomed into any of the windows or made any of the windows like the main focus. It was mostly you're kind of looking around, and I think that's kind of a mistake of Unfriended is that it feels a bit disjointed in that way, where you don't know where to look, so you're searching around the screen and you can easily miss something that is needed for the plot, or something that if you miss it, you'll be very confused on what's going on. This film doesn't do that, and it didn't throw me off. It didn't feel unnatural to me where it zoomed into certain windows. There's like a car chase that's happening later in the film where you're going in between the window of like the hackers trying to help him, the main character, and our main character driving. And I think it's done in such a way that actually it keeps up the pace and it doesn't ever feel like it, you know, drops it. It doesn't feel like it loses its way through that. Um, and at no point did I like at certain points I was like, "Come on, we're really doing this," and then I was like, "You know what? That works." Where in order to get different camera angles, they're using. At one point, they use these things called ping pong cameras, which are basically, I guess, shaped like ping pong balls, and they're like 360 cameras. And at one point, they're using it to like see Sasha and to find where she is, her character. And there's like a weird like effect of like a bunch of trapezoids or whatever, like showing like her body, and like it's hard to explain. Where you can see like the outline of her, and then as she like opens up the bag and there's more light that comes in, you can see her. And they do this effect at the very end of the movie too, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was cool looking. This film does have a lot of really cool camera work and cool ways that it weaves in the cameras into the plot, other than just, oh, they're security cameras. I actually do like that. Some people might think, oh, it's technical gobbledygook, but whatever. Like, given given the immense amount of things that you can do with computers nowadays, I don't think this film is that unrealistic. It's kind of hard to find a film nowadays that is unrealistic with the internet, other than like if you really deep dive and go into like a bunch of cop shows that have hacking, which I'm like, well, yeah, obviously the like, oh, a million pop-up windows, oh my god, they're getting hacked. Like, yeah, I obviously find that stupid, but this film, I don't think at any point it goes overboard with Hollywoodifying this thing, and it does quite a few things that actually were pretty shocking to me. Like the scene where the villain is basically forcing our main character to tell the actress to strip and be sexy and all that. At no point does this come off as the director being like, "Oh my god, we weaved in a way into the story to get her naked," but it's actually plot relevant because earlier on she's talking about like, "Oh, we're drumming up publicity by leaking a video of her masturbating." That's what she says, for her boyfriend on camera. And I was like, is that going to come back into play? And it did. And I was glad that it did. I mean, not because, not, I'll just get this off right off the bat. Yes, Sasha Grey is very hot. She is. She's a porn star. Porn stars are usually hot. But the scene of her being sexy came off actually very intense. Like, there was actual tension there. She plays it well. She plays up her being scared very well and her being in distress very well. I do think Sasha Grey did a good job here. Like, legitimately. She seems to be trying. It's always really nice to see an actor go from a completely different medium like porn come into a dramatic like thriller and then give a good performance. It's insane. And at no point did it come off like, oh, she's faking emotion. Like, she did a really good job. She even cries. That's a lot more than you get from a lot of porn actors that go into actual acting. But um let's see. What else? I will say, if anybody's seen the film, the twists at the end, I will say I do wish they were set up to a bit better. Um they like, I don't mind the twists and I don't mind the concept of the twists, but and I'm saying twists, like there's multiple twists. But I don't know, I can't help but think that it wasn't 100% built up to. There's hints at it throughout the film, but I kept thinking like, oh, that's not going to be it. And then it did turn out to be it. I guess they did build up to it, but I don't know. So it's a bit ridiculous. If you can suspend your disbelief a bit, I think you can enjoy this film. And if you enjoyed films like Unfriended, Searching, Profile, those types, I think that you could easily get into this film. Again, it very obviously has some remnants of the early the early types of this film. Like it has some remnants of what made those kind of clunky, like Unfriended. There are times where it feels like it completely goes away from the screen life format, especially at the ending where it's just a camera, like a camera on the villain's head, or it's the ping pong cameras capturing an entire room. It just kind of feels like they found an excuse in order to use normal cameras. And I will give at least Unfriended, and I'll give it Unfriended at least that, even though they did the whole screen bleeding thing, which drove me up a fucking wall. Um, at no point did it feel like it didn't feel like it completely abandoned it, but it did feel like they were trying to cheat it at times. And another issue I'd have with this film is the writing at times. There's some really there's like moments where it's supposed to be like badass what a character is saying, and it really doesn't come off that way. There's a bit where there's like a running joke that Elijah Wood has a CD in his car, uh, and the band is later we're later told the band is named Suicide, and the guy that's hacked into his computer or whatever, the villain, says like turn that shitty music off. And then later in the film, like at the end, Elijah Wood's character keeps like he says, "In this band, they're called Suicide, and they're amazing." And I'm like, was that supposed to be a mic drop moment? Like I can't tell. Like it was you could have taken that out. You didn't need the whole thing with the music. You didn't need that. It I didn't hate the line, but it did come off very weird given that this was a mostly like very intense film. And I was like, okay, we're still in the climax of the film, and you say that. Like, if this had happened after he had died, if he had said something like that to the camera after he knows that the guy's dead, maybe it could have worked, but I, it does. This film does have some weird bits of humor that I just think didn't fit. But otherwise, it is a legitimately intense film. It has some pretty good production value. This film was made for $4 million, allegedly. And I wouldn't call this an action movie, but during the chase scene, like a couple of cop cars like fucking fly into the air and get destroyed. And I was like, you know what? This works. And the driving never feels fake. It never feels, it never looks too bad. Almost as if they actually did a car chase on the roads of wherever they are. I don't know where they're supposed to be. I guess they're supposed to be in Paris because there's multiple French people. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I forgot exactly where it was. But the but yeah, the car chase looked really good, and actually it felt like they were actually in a car and actually driving the main character. So I'll definitely give it props for that. But yeah, I think Nacho Vigalondo did a good job here. Maybe sometime I'll check out his other film, Colossal or Time Crimes. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed it. There you go. um, that was my review of. Now I'm forgetting the damn movie's name. Open Windows. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put those down there as well. And movie reviewer next door.